I was only out of the country for a few years, and the queen of the Upper East Side found herself a replacement for me. She claimed she still loved me, but then turned around and defended my stand-in at every turn. Once I saw through her two-faced game, I made my debut with a new woman the very next day. That's when she panicked, thinking I was just playing hard to get. I had to laugh. Did she really think she could have it both ways? She had no idea who was holding the aces. Isabel, Caleb's almost here. You need to get him out now. The words hit me the second I stepped into the VIP section. I looked up and saw them, sitting center stage, pressed tightly together. One was Ashley Price, the heiress who could make or break fortunes in this city with a single phone call. The other was Leo, a man who had no business, no right to be in this room. My illegitimate half-brother. The moment everyone saw me, the chatter died. Ashley's eyes met mine. She flinched, her gaze darting away for a split second. Then, she shoved Leo aside and strode toward me, her voice trembling with a mixture of excitement and joy. Caleb, you're finally back. I didn't miss the flash of pain and wounded pride on Leo's face as he was pushed away. I raised a hand slightly, stopping her before she could get any closer. My smile was polite but cold. Thank you for the welcome home party, Miss Price. Ashley froze, disbelief clouding her eyes. I turned to the rest of the room. It's been a while. Thanks for coming out to welcome me back. The crowd instantly warmed up, a chorus of friendly greetings erupting around me. Ashley, however, was left on the outside, isolated from me like a mere acquaintance. Her eyes reddened, brimming with unshed tears. She pushed through the others, planting herself in front of me again. Caleb, it's not what you think, she insisted, her voice a stubborn, frantic whisper. Leo insisted on coming. I told him no, but he wouldn't listen. You have to believe me, Caleb. My expression didn't change. I know, I said, my tone dripping with indifference. Just then, Leo approached, his face pale. He glanced at Ashley, then looked at me, his lip trembling. It's all my fault. I'm so sorry. I know I don't belong in a place like this. He stammered, his eyes welling up. I just wanted to be here to welcome my brother home. I didn't realize you hated me this much. My eyes swept over the man who shared 80% of my features. A faint smirk touched my lips. Where did you get that mole under your eye? I asked, my voice chillingly soft. Without it, he was nothing. Leo froze, looking helplessly at Ashley. Ashley's patience snapped. Can you just get out of here? She yelled at him. Stunned by her outburst, Leo's face crumpled in humiliation. Tears streamed down his cheeks as he turned and fled the room. Ashley started to explain again, but I cut her off with a single, dismissive look. I don't care, because the moment I walked into this room, she'd already been crossed off my list. Everyone in our circle knew that Ashley Price was hopelessly in love with me. When she found out I was moving to London, she'd thrown such a fit that she'd tripped, broken her leg, and still showed up at the airport on crutches to beg me not to go. Of course, I wasn't about to sacrifice my career for any woman. During my 4 years abroad, I had occasionally considered the idea that a strategic alliance between the Morgan and Price families, a marriage, would be a good move. It would have been a mutually beneficial arrangement for both our family empires. But looking at the scene in front of me, it was clear that was no longer a possibility. The rest of the party was a blur of expensive champagne and hollow chatter. Ashley was the only one drinking whiskey alone in a corner, nursing her glass. As I mingled, my gaze drifted to a figure in the corner of the room. A woman in a simple white dress, her entire being radiating a cool, reserved aura that set her apart from the loud, glittering crowd. Her expression was serene, almost detached. A string of sandalwood meditation beads was wrapped around her long, slender fingers, adding to an air of untouchable, aristocratic grace. The person next to me noticed my stare and leaned in to whisper, "That's Isabel Vance, the heir to the Vance fortune. I heard she spent the last 4 years on some spiritual retreat, living like a monk. The Vance family had to practically drag her back from a monastery to take over the company." The name rang a faint bell, but nothing more. Sensing my gaze, she turned her head. Her eyes, cool and distant as a snow-covered mountain, met mine. I didn't look away. After a moment, I smirked and raised my glass to her in a silent toast. Isabel Vance held my gaze for another second before calmly looking away. I took the helm of the company the day I got back. One of the first things I learned was that Leo had been signed to Ashley's talent agency for the past few years. It was the worst-kept secret in the industry that she was his patron. With her resources, he'd become one of Hollywood's hottest rising stars. But when it came to talent management, the Morgan Empire was in another league entirely. Without a second thought, I blacklisted him. Every contract, every endorsement, every project gone. It was a career death sentence. It wasn't long before Ashley stormed into my office. I was in the middle of reassigning Leo's canceled projects to other actors on my roster. The door flew open and she burst in, my assistant trailing helplessly behind her. "Caleb, how could you be so cruel? All of my agency's partners are pulling out," she yelled, slamming her hands on my desk. I didn't even look up. "Get out," I said calmly. She took a deep breath. "There's no need for this, Caleb. I can give you anything you want. Do you really have to be so vicious and just take it? Get out." Finally, she snapped. "Caleb Morgan," she roared. I closed the file in front of me and met her gaze, my expression unreadable. "So, what are you really angry about, Ashley, the company, or your little pet project?" The question caught her off guard. She averted her eyes. It's not like that with Leo. He's the one who won't leave me alone." I let out a short, humorless laugh. "Is that so?" My voice turned to ice. "Because I'm not interested. And if you're so determined to protect him, Ms. Price, I won't hesitate to go after Price Corp itself. But mark my words," I leaned forward, my voice low and final. "I will destroy Leo's career." Everyone in our world knew the story. They knew Leo and his social climbing mother had forced their way into our lives, and the stress of their campaign is what killed my own mother. From that day on, life was never easy for them. People intentionally kept their distance from Leo, not wanting to make an enemy of me. And yet, Ashley had dared to keep him right under my nose. The only reason I hadn't already dismantled her family's company was out of respect for her grandfather. That evening, the Vance family held their annual gala at their sprawling estate in the Hamptons, an invitation extended to the who-who of New York society. I had just stepped into the garden when a slender figure intercepted me. "Caleb," Leo began, his voice laced with a pathetic weakness. "Can I talk to you for a second? I know I was wrong, but please, can you just let this go? I didn't do anything. Why do you hate me so much?" He sounded so pitiful, tears welling in his eyes, that a few nearby guests started to stare, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and judgment, mostly directed at the illegitimate son. I stared at him coldly. "Who the hell do you think you are to talk to me?" His body trembled. He leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a venomous whisper. "You know, the same night Ashley dropped you off at the airport, she ended up in my bed. For the past 4 years, she's been mine. She might cry out your name sometimes," he sneered, "but she's not as loyal as you think. I replaced you, Caleb. I'm going to make you see what a pathetic clown you are." The words had barely left his mouth when his eyes widened in fake panic. He threw himself backward like a doll with its strings cut. In a flash, Ashley was there, rushing forward to catch him. Leo steadied himself, leaning heavily against her. He looked at me, his voice choked with feigned hurt. "Caleb, even if you hate me, why did you have to push me?" Ashley's eyes shot to me, filled with disappointment and disbelief. I looked from one to the other, a cold, derisive laugh building in my chest. As if his disgusting fantasy wasn't bad enough, now he was resorting to this pathetic amateur theatric. What a waste of time. I stepped past Ashley, grabbed Leo by his collar, and kicked his legs out from under him. He cried out as he hit the manicured lawn, his expensive suit instantly stained with dirt. I looked down at him, my voice slow and dangerously calm. Now that is how I would do it. The party guests watched, mesmerized by the drama. Suddenly, a calm, clear presence cut through the tension. Isabel Vance stepped into the garden. She wore a simple black dress that highlighted her willowy figure, her long legs, and the sandalwood beads still wrapped around her wrist. The moment the lady of the house appeared, a hush fell over the crowd. I turned my attention to her, a lazy smile on my face. Since when did the Vances lower their standard for party guests? I didn't realize illegitimate sons were on the list. Leo's face went white. Isabel's cool gaze met mine. After a beat, her lips parted. I didn't invite him. I was slightly surprised. I hadn't expected her to engage, let alone explain herself to me. He's with me. Ashley snapped, helping Leo to his feet. Leo, his eyes red, mumbled, "I'm so sorry, Ashley. I've embarrassed you. I shouldn't have provoked my brother." Isabel looked down her nose at him. Her voice as crisp and cold as spring water. "Security. Please escort this gentleman off the premises." As two guards materialized and dragged a stunned and humiliated Leo away, Ashley's face darkened with rage. She glared at Isabel. "You want to make an enemy of me?" Isabel simply caressed her meditation beads, not even gracing Ashley with glance. The heiress, unaccustomed to being ignored, lunged forward to grab Isabel's arm. In a blink, several black-clad bodyguards appeared from the shadows, forming a wall and forcing Ashley to backpedal. Fuming, Ashley spun around to face me, her eyes red with resentment. "Caleb, you've changed." With that, she stormed off. After making the rounds with a few CEOs, I escaped to a second-floor balcony. I stood there, sipping champagne and staring at the moon. The glass was empty, and I was about to head out when I heard footsteps behind me. A moment later, Isabel Vance was standing at the railing, a respectful distance away. The faint, clean scent of sandalwood drifted toward me. I glanced at the beads on her wrist, a flicker of amusement stirring in me. "Should I call you Saint Isabel or Ms. Vance?" The words were out before I could stop them, and I chuckled to myself. It was impossible to reconcile the ethereal woman before me with the image of a stuffy nun. The moonlight draped her in a silvery glow, making her appear even more distant and untouchable. "Whatever you like." I didn't know her well enough to push it. After a few more moments of silence, I left. My company was producing a new live-streamed reality show. When I heard Leo was part of the cast, I offered a substantial sum to have him replaced. The producer, however, informed me that the Price family was backing him, and nobody dared to cross them. I laughed when I heard that. "Interesting." I turned to my assistant. "That Hudson Yards bid Ashley's company is competing for. Find a way to win it. And those new condo towers Price Corp is building. Keep an eye on them. The second you find a code violation, report it directly to the city inspectors." I paused for a moment. "And contact the producers of that reality show. Tell them I'm joining the cast." The next day, I made a surprise appearance on the set. The director himself rushed over to give me the rundown. The other cast members watched me with curiosity. Only Leo's face changed, a flicker of raw hatred in his eyes that he quickly suppressed. During introductions, everyone was surprised to learn we shared a last name. Leo smiled and walked over to me. "That's right. This is my brother." Someone had a moment of realization. "That explains the resemblance. You know, Leo, if you had a mole under your eye, you'd look almost identical." At the mention of the mole, Leo's expression darkened for a second. He quickly recovered, forcing a sad smile. "I've been told my brother is much better looking than me." He took a shaky breath. "I've been compared to him my whole life, but it's true. He's better than me in every way, from his looks to his talent. It's no wonder. Fewer people like me." He trailed off, his eyes growing misty as if he were holding back years of pain. The other cast members immediately rushed to comfort him. The show went live at that exact moment, and the comment feed exploded. "Here for my baby Leo. Don't be sad, sweetie. We all love you." My heart breaks for Leo. "I get it. You're so strong, baby." "I don't see it. The brother isn't even that good looking. Leo is way cuter." "Wow. I had no idea Leo had such a tough childhood. But you're amazing. You have so many fans who love you." This is his actual brother. He could at least pretend to be supportive. He seems so cold. I watched the whole performance from the sidelines, finding it utterly ridiculous. "You should know exactly why people don't like you." My voice cut through the sympathetic murmurs. "It's because you and your mother tried to usurp my mother's place, and the stress of it is what killed her." I stared at his progressively paler face and smiled. Am I wrong? The cast and crew froze. Thankfully, the production team was quick on their feet and cut to a commercial break before the entire exchange could blow up online. Leo's expression was stiff. "Caleb, what kind of joke is that?" he stammered, his eyes wide and pleading. I brushed his hand off my arm. "You know perfectly well whether I'm joking or not." With that, I walked away and found a seat on a nearby sofa. The others exchanged uneasy glances and pointedly kept their distance from Leo. That afternoon, An unexpected guest arrived. Ashley Price sauntered onto the set, greeting everyone with a casual wave. Since Leo was signed to her agency and rumors of his powerful backer had circulated for years, her appearance sent a wave of speculation through the cast and crew. I stood on the landing of the staircase, nursing a cup of tea, and watched the scene unfold. Ashley walked right past a hopeful Leo and came straight for me. She stopped at the bottom of the stairs, a bright smile on her face. "Caleb." Behind her, Leo's face fell, a picture of lonely heartbreak. "Here to protect your little investment, Miss Price?" I asked coolly. Her smile faltered. She shook her head. "I'm here to win you back." I stared at her, my disgust palpable. "Don't be grotesque." The show had a rustic, back-to-nature theme, filmed at a luxury farmhouse in the countryside. The main task for the day was for everyone to work together to build a wooden fence around a garden. The quiet forest in the distance was calming. It was one of the reasons I'd agreed to come here, to decompress. We hauled lumber from a shed and found the tools. My job was to nail the planks together. I was already halfway done when I saw Leo slowly making his way toward me out of the corner of my eye. A second later, he let out a pained scream and collapsed. Everyone turned to look. A long, thick nail was sticking straight through the sole of his boot. Blood was already starting to seep through the leather. People rushed over to him. Ashley, who had been on the far side of the garden, vaulted over the half-finished fence and ran to his side. Leo clung to her, his face a mask of agony. She glanced at me uneasily but didn't push him away. "How did you step on a nail?" Leo was pale and sweating, his voice weak. "It's okay." Caleb threw a nail at my feet, but I'm sure he didn't mean to. He clutched Ashley's sleeve. "Please don't blame my brother, Miss Price. It was my own fault." Jaws dropped. Everyone stared at me, their faces a mixture of shock and condemnation. The live chat went into a frenzy. "OMG, that nail is huge. That's basically attempted murder. This brother is terrifying. What kind of person does that?" If Leo hadn't said anything, would he have just suffered in silence? "This is horrible. This guy is sick. Someone call the cops, please. Get him to a hospital. That looks so painful. My poor baby. He's pulling stunts like this on camera. Imagine what he does to his brother at home." Ashley looked at me, her disappointment sharp. "Caleb, you were never like this before." She turned and yelled at the crew. "Somebody call 911. Get him to a hospital." Nestled in her arms, hidden from the cameras, Leo shot me a look of pure, triumphant malice. "Hold on," I said, my voice calm. Ashley shot me an impatient glare. I pulled a nail from a toolbox and held it up, then pointed to the one in Leo's shoe. "That's not one of ours." The others leaned in to look. A murmur of surprise went through the group. "The one in Leo's boot is gold. The ones we're using are silver." Leo's face went rigid. A flicker of panic crossed his features. I looked down at him, a cold smile playing on my lips. "If you're going to frame someone, you should at least do it properly. Didn't your mother teach you that?" In the end, the production team sent Leo to the hospital. The rest of us continued building the fence, the air thick with unspoken thoughts. I calmly went back to hammering nails, ignoring the multiple glances Ashley sent my way. After finishing the job, we had dinner and retired to our separate rooms. When I stepped out of the shower with a towel around my waist, I found Ashley sitting on my sofa. Suppressing a surge of anger, I went back into the bathroom and changed into sweatpants and a t-shirt. When I came out, she was waiting by the door. I stared at her, my voice like ice. "Get out." Her eyes immediately filled with tears. "Caleb, I was wrong today. Can you please forgive me?" She started to move toward me. My eyes flashed a warning. "Don't touch me. You lay a hand on me, and I guarantee Price Corp will regret it." Ashley stopped in her tracks. I walked past her to the sofa. "Caleb, you weren't like this before you left," she pleaded. "Back then, you liked me too, didn't you?" I leaned against the sofa and gave her a dismissive look. "You're imagining things. Please leave my room." "Why did you become so cold after you went away?" she demanded, her brow furrowed in confusion. "Did you date someone over there? What could some blonde give you that I can't?" My expression remained placid, as if I were watching a child's tantrum. After a moment, I asked quietly, "The night you dropped me at the airport, what were you doing?" Ashley froze. Her eyes darted around the room, before she ran a frustrated hand through her hair. "You should get some rest," she mumbled and left. After she was gone, I locked the door. I didn't actually care where she was or who she was sleeping with that night. But if the thought made her feel guilty, that wasn't a bad thing for me. I called my assistant to get an update on work. "How did the Hudson Yards bid go?" "A complete victory. It went smoothly, thanks in large part to Ms. Vance's help." I frowned. Isabel Vance. My assistant confirmed it was her. I wasn't the type to offer help for free, and I assumed others operated the same way. "What does she want?" He hesitated. "Ms. Vance didn't say." He paused. "Oh, right." Before she left, she said she hoped you would add her on WhatsApp. Her number is the same as her contact. I was more confused than ever. 7 after hanging up, I added Isabel Vance. Her profile name was a single, capitalized S, and her picture was of her sandalwood beads. She accepted the request almost instantly. "Me. Thanks for the help, Ms. Vance. If you ever need anything, just ask." A minute later, she replied, "Isabel, why are you on a reality show?" I stared at the message, taken aback. Was she implying it was beneath me to be on show just to get back at Leo? Or that I was lowering my status? I couldn't figure it out, but I felt a prickle of annoyance at the intrusion. "Me, don't worry about it." This time, she didn't reply for a long while. I finished up some work, turned off the lights, and went to bed. Just as I was drifting off, my phone lit up. A notification from Saint Isabel. "Isabel, let's meet when you're done filming." A few days later, Leo returned, his foot healed. The director announced an optional activity, a guided excursion deep into the surrounding forest for an authentic wilderness experience. Only a couple of cast members opted out due to health reasons. The rest of us geared up to leave. Ashley came over and pressed a small can of bug spray into my hand. "For the insects," she said, then walked away. I frowned at her retreating back, then tossed the can to Leo, who was standing nearby. The thought of using something she gave me was repulsive. "Caleb," Leo said, his voice dripping with smug satisfaction. "Ashley already gave me one." I glanced at him, having nothing to say. Seeing that I was ignoring him, Leo let out an indignant huff. After a final safety check, our group headed into the woods. My mind kept replaying Isabel's message from the night before. Why does she want to meet? What's her angle? I was sure we had never crossed paths before I left for London. And I wasn't arrogant enough to think my good looks alone had captured the heart of the city's most famously aloof heiress. Isabel Vance's motives were a complete mystery. We found a relatively flat clearing and started setting up camp. Dinner was a surprisingly decent barbecue. Throughout the meal, Ashley kept bringing me plates of grilled meat. The other cast members watched, stunned. Leo's face was a mask of bitter resentment. Each time she brought a plate, I would turn and pass the food to someone else. After several attempts, Ashley finally gave up, her shoulders slumping in defeat. "You're so lucky, Caleb," Leo chimed in, his voice taking on a martyred tone. "People are always so good to you, no matter where you go. Not like me. My mother always had such high standards for me. I never even had barbecue before, let alone had someone cook it for me." He trailed off, his eyes getting red. 8-inch don't cry, baby, we'll make you barbecue. That arrogant jerk gets some food and acts like he owns the world. So annoying. Thank God Leo is famous now. Otherwise, he'd still be suffering. Keep shining, Leo. The view is always better from the top. Did you all get amnesia about the part where Leo framed his brother? The internet really has no memory. Oh, get off your high horse. You're the only one on a moral pedestal here. It was just a joke between brothers. You people are so petty. You call that a joke? I've never seen a man cry so much. He's more dramatic than most women. That last commenter was quickly swarmed. I took a sip of water. That's understandable, I said slowly, my voice carrying across the campfire. After all, your mother is still counting on you to help her fight me for the family inheritance. The lively atmosphere died instantly. Leo choked on his words, forcing a pitiful expression. But I never wanted to fight you for anything, Caleb. Why do you always assume the worst of me? Hearing this, my expression hardened. Is that so? I asked, my voice turning glacial. Then perhaps you need me to remind you how my mother died. Leo's face drained of all color. Of course he knew. He knew she had jumped from a building. He and his mother had just moved into our home, taking my mother's place in mine. My father, reveling in the sick thrill of his domestic arrangement, had let them bully her relentlessly. I was away at the time, interning at an out-of-state branch of the company. The next thing I knew, I received the news that my mother, unable to bear the torment, had taken her own life. That was the day I understood that the only way to protect the people you care about is to become ruthlessly powerful. That night, we cleaned up and went to our tents. We were scheduled to head back around noon the next day. In the dead of night, I heard Leo's voice outside my tent. "Caleb, I need to talk to you about something." I checked my watch. It was exactly midnight. When I didn't move, he whispered again, "I know you're awake. It's about your mother." His words made me sit up. I hesitated for a moment, then took a miniature recording device from my bag and clipped it to my collar. I stepped out of the tent. He glanced at me. "Not here. Let's walk a bit." I followed him away from the campsite. "You know, Caleb, sometimes I really envy you," he said, stopping and turning to face me. "You were born into a great family. You excelled at everything. And even during your 4 years in London, you had people lining up to be with you." I crossed my arms, annoyed. "You've been investigating me." Leo laughed softly. "All these years, the only reason I've gotten anything is because I look like you. I've always been your substitute." His voice rose, his face contorting with rage. "If I don't draw on this mole, Ashley won't even give me the time of day." "I'm leaving," I said flatly, tired of his theatrics. "And to think Isabel Vance is only interested because of you two." I stopped, frowning. "What are you talking about?" He gave a self-deprecating laugh. "Do you have any idea who she went on that spiritual retreat for?" "What do you mean?" He sneered, his voice turning sinister. "It's better that you don't know. You deserve to have some regrets, after all, because you're not going to live to see tomorrow." 9 inches the next instant, he shoved me hard. I stumbled backward, my feet scrambling for purchase. Suddenly, there was nothing beneath them. As I fell into the darkness, my mind went blank. The last thing I saw was the twisted, terrifying grin on Leo's face. "Patient has lost spontaneous respiration. Patient is hemorrhaging. Heart rate is erratic. Cardiac arrest. Get the defibrillator now." Again, "We have a stable rhythm. We could begin the operation." When I opened my eyes again, everything was white. My body felt like it had been crushed, and I couldn't move. A hand gently took mine. I slowly turned my head. Isabel Vance was sitting by my bed. Her eyes were bloodshot, her face gaunt and pale. The elegant, untouchable grace was gone, replaced by a raw, fragile exhaustion. She looked as if she'd been dragged down from her pedestal. I couldn't understand why she was the first person I saw when I woke up, or why she looked so utterly devastated. A group of doctors came in and ran a series of checks. They spouted a lot of medical jargon, the gist of which was that after 2 weeks in a coma, my recovery was going remarkably well. The lead physician looked at Isabel with a warm, encouraging smile. "Perhaps your prayers were answered." After the doctors left, I spoke, my voice raspy. "Leo pushed me. Did they find a recorder?" She just stood there, staring at me, her gaze intense and profound, as if she were looking at a priceless treasure that had been lost and miraculously found again. The thought was so bizarre I dismissed it immediately. Finally, she looked away. "Don't worry," she said, her voice hoarse. "I'll handle it." Hearing that, a sense of relief washed over me, followed by a strange feeling. Was I being protected by this woman? My gaze fell to her left wrist. "Where are your beads?" I asked instinctively. Her expression flickered. "They broke by accident." I found that hard to believe. She treasured those beads, but I didn't press the issue. Just then, the door burst open. Ashley rushed in, her eyes red and swollen. "Caleb, you're finally awake." Isabel's face changed in an instant. She grabbed Ashley, her eyes turning to chips of ice. With a practiced, fluid motion, she slapped Ashley hard across the face. Before Ashley could even react, Isabel was dragging her out of the room. I lay there, stunned. After a moment, I reached for my phone on the nightstand. A flood of notifications popped up. One headline was trending everywhere. Hashtag heiress vigil. Isabel Vance holds 360-hour prayer marathon for mystery man. My heart skipped a beat. I clicked on it. The article was filled with photos of Isabel Vance, kneeling on the cold stone steps of the hospital chapel. One viral video showed the famously aloof heiress, dressed in a simple white outfit, holding a string of sandalwood beads. For 15 straight days, through sun and rain, she had knelt in public prayer. An amateur videographer who had been visiting the hospital had filmed her on the last day. In the clip, she stood before the chapel altar, her hands clasped, her eyes closed. "Please, God, I'm asking you to protect the man I love, Caleb Morgan. Please keep him safe." Her voice was clear, unwavering, and filled with a desperate piety. The user who posted it had been visiting a relative and was so moved they recorded the whole thing. It blew up online. Some viewers recognized the name Caleb Morgan from the reality show that had abruptly stopped airing after the camping episode. The comments section was a storm of speculation. Did that guy from the show have an accident in the forest? This is actually heartbreaking. I had no idea the Ice Queen could love someone this much. Watching her pray like that brought tears to my eyes. I hope Caleb Morgan pulls through. It could be a different Caleb Morgan, but wow. You don't see devotion like that anymore. I did some digging. She's Isabel Vance of the Vance family. There's a Caleb Morgan in their circle. I never thought you'd find true love in that world of money and power. They're both from two of the most powerful families in the country. This is better than a movie. Lying in the hospital bed, I felt a wave of dizziness. None of it made sense. Isabel Vance was in love with me. Why? My head throbbed. A few minutes later, she walked back into the room. I put my phone down and looked at her. "Are you in any pain?" she asked, her voice soft. I shook my head. "What happened to your beads?" Seeing me ask again, her gaze fell to my phone on the nightstand. She was quiet for a moment. "They broke when I heard you were in critical condition. Where are the beads now?" I asked, not surprised. "At home." I asked another question, more casually this time. "When did you start liking me?" Isabel froze, the silence stretching longer this time. I had assumed that in our world, confessions of love were commonplace. I'd had people throwing themselves at me my whole life, most of them interested in the Morgan family name. But I was genuinely baffled as to why she would be one of them. Suddenly, her fingers touched my face. I flinched. Her long, cool fingers gently traced a mole under my eye. Her gaze was clear and serene, yet filled with an intensity that held me captive. At that moment, she was every bit the Saint Isabel the internet had christened her. It was a much better name than the sarcastic one I'd given her, and it suited her perfectly. She leaned down, her voice a low, intimate whisper. "Get better soon, and I'll tell you everything." My heart stuttered. No, this wasn't a saint. This was a siren. During my recovery, Leo was held in custody as the prime suspect. But without concrete evidence, it was a waiting game. Isabel's people visited him several times. He refused to confess, going so far as to curse me to a life as a vegetable. Little did he know, the cliff he'd so carefully chosen was full of branches that broke my fall and saved my life. The miniature recorder I'd clipped to my collar had been lost in the chaos. A search team had been combing the area for weeks. The day I was discharged, a group of friends met me at the hospital with flowers and champagne. Over their heads, my eyes met Ashley's. She looked lost and small, hovering at the edge of the group, too scared to approach me. Isabel came up behind me, subtly positioning herself between me and the others. My friends immediately started teasing. "Well, it's about time you two made it official. A perfect match. You kept this quiet, Ms. Vance. No wonder you never took holy orders. You were waiting to get married." Someone noticed Ashley's pained expression and quickly changed the subject. "All right, everyone, give the man some space. Caleb just got out of the hospital. He needs to rest." They all said their goodbyes, leaving only Ashley behind. "We're going to see Leo," I said coolly. "Are you coming?" Her face fell. After the beating Isabel had given her, she didn't dare come near me. "Caleb, I had no idea he would do something like that. If I had known, I never would have let him on the show." I was surprised she had the nerve. "Save it for your grandfather," I said, amused. The man Ashley Price had championed had nearly killed the heir to the Morgan fortune. Everyone knew what was coming for Price Corp. I turned my back on her and got into Isabel's car. "Take me to the office." She started the car, her hands steady on the wheel. "Shouldn't you go home and rest first?" I was already scrolling through emails on my phone. Have they extracted the video from the recorder? She glanced at me. "Almost. We can file charges against Leo tomorrow." I frowned. "That's too late. The company's stock has been dropping for weeks. I want to file this afternoon. We need to give the market some reassurance." Engrossed in my phone, I didn't notice the heavy silence that had fallen in the car until I realized she hadn't responded. I looked up. The scenery outside wasn't the route to my office. "Where are you taking me?" Isabel stared straight ahead, her expression unreadable, her posture radiating a familiar, cool distance. A strange knot of irritation formed in my stomach. If she wasn't going to talk, then neither would I. I turned and stared out the window. The car eventually pulled into a private, gated community in the heart of the city, stopping in front of a modern villa. She got out without a word. My chest tightened. What's her problem? Is she mad at me? Just as I was thinking this, my passenger door opened. Isabel leaned in, her face impassive. I held my breath as her proximity filled my senses. Her clear eyes stared into mine. With a soft click, she unbuckled my seatbelt. Then she took my hand and led me into the villa. Her hand wasn't cold, as I had imagined. It was warm, smooth like polished jade. Nice to hold. Isabel's face was still a frozen mask. I thought we were past this. As she started to walk away, I grabbed her hand. "Are you angry?" I demanded. She turned back to me and nodded. What? I hadn't gotten mad at her for kidnapping me and not taking me to the office. What right did she have to be mad at me? She stared at me, her eyes darkening slightly. "Caleb, you are yourself first, and the CEO of Morgan Holdings second. After what you've been through, I would have hoped you'd put your own health first." I met her intense gaze, and after a moment, I blinked. She was worried about me. A complex emotion washed over me. "Fine, I'll agree to that, but not unconditionally. Marry me." Isabel froze, stunned. After a beat, her gaze became scorching. "What do you mean, Caleb?" she asked, her voice hoarse. I looked away, a strange heat rising in my cheeks. A merger between the Vance and Morgan families is a win-win for both of us. I'm sure you, as a CEO, wouldn't refuse. At my words, the light in her eyes died. "Is that the only reason?" she asked, her voice tinged with disappointment. My throat felt dry. Yes, I could feel her eyes on me, and I focused on keeping my breathing even. After a long moment, she straightened up, her expression once again cool and remote. "Fine, we'll get the license tomorrow and announce it. That should be good for the Morgan stock." The next morning, we went to the courthouse and got married. The certificate in my hand felt unreal. "Should I have our PR team release a statement now?" Isabel asked, her voice flat, her face devoid of any emotion. Seeing her like this annoyed me. "No need," I said, my tone even colder than hers. Morgan Holdings hasn't sunk that low. For the next few weeks, she lived in my penthouse. In theory, we should have been bumping into each other constantly. In reality, I barely saw her. The only time we interacted was at night, when she would bring me a glass of warm water for my medication. One night, after I took the pills, I hesitated. "Do you want to sleep in the same room?" I immediately felt like an idiot and backpedaled. "Just asking. Don't read into it." Isabel took the empty glass from my hand. "No, thank you. This is a business arrangement," she said calmly. "You should get some rest." She walked out. I watched the door close, my head buzzing with anger. I grabbed a pillow and hurled it at the door. Who does she think she is? Women from here to Paris would kill to be in my bed. It's not like she'd be losing out. A few days later, Leo's attempted murder trial began. At first, he was defiant, arrogantly denying everything. That is, until my lawyer played the video from the recorder. The footage showed the entire exchange, capturing Leo's venomous words and the vicious shove. Leo's face turned ashen. The verdict was swift, guilty, several years in prison. As the guards led him away in handcuffs, his face was a gray mask of defeat. I stood in the crowd and began to clap slowly. He heard the sound, and his head snapped up. When he saw me, healthy and whole, something in him broke. "Caleb, you bastard," he screamed, struggling against the guards. "You can go to hell." I watched him like he was a clown in a circus. A slow smile spread across my face. "You did a good job, Leo. If you hadn't done this, I'm not sure how I would have dealt with you." His eyes widened in horrified understanding. He knew he'd been played. When I got home, I thought Isabel wouldn't be back yet, but I heard the shower running in her bedroom upstairs. Strange, she was home early. I'd never been in her room since we got married, and curiosity got the better of me. I went upstairs and pushed the door open. Her room was Spartan and elegant. A small incense burner on her desk filled the air with the scent of sandalwood. That explained her personal fragrance. I noticed a string of beads on her desk and picked them up. They were smooth and glossy, clearly expensive. As I turned them over, I saw that 4 of the beads had tiny characters engraved on them. "Caleb safe." A calm voice came from behind me. I spun around, startled. Isabel stood there, wrapped in nothing but a bath towel. Water dripped from her hair, tracing a path down her neck to the hollow of her collarbone. Despite having seen my fair share of R-rated movies, I felt my face burn. I quickly looked away, only to meet her amused gaze in the mirror. I cleared my throat. "When did you have these engraved?" She continued to watch me, unbothered. "While you were in the hospital." I was about to ask something else, but she answered my unspoken questions. "I started my spiritual practice 4 years ago. For you, and for your mother. I prayed for her soul to find peace, and I hoped that, if she was watching from somewhere, she would join me in protecting you while you were abroad." Her words hit me like a tidal wave. I stared at her, stunned and disoriented. She spoke about it so casually, as if it were the most normal thing in the world, not some grand, secret act of devotion. "You want to know why?" she asked, taking a step toward me, then another. "Perhaps it's because I fell in love with you long before Ashley Price ever did." She stopped right in front of me. I was so shocked I could barely speak. "Why?" I finally managed to ask, my voice trembling. I didn't even know her back then. A shadow crossed Isabel's eyes. "There is no why. Love is love. But if you need a reason," she said, looking up at me, "let's just say I was the one who found your high school graduation photo after you dropped it." My eyes widened. So that's where it went. Love at first sight. Huh. By that math, this woman had been secretly in love with me for over a decade. In the next moment, she placed her hands on the desk on either side of me, trapping me. The sweet, clean scent of her skin, mixed with sandalwood, was intoxicating. "And you?" she whispered, her eyes searching mine. "Have you fallen for me? Even a little?" I instinctively sat back on the desk, leaning away from her, but my hand brushed against hers. The warmth of her skin felt like it was burning a hole right through me. Her gaze was sharp, pinning me down, and I could see a flicker of nervousness in her eyes. My heart was pounding against my ribs. Damn it. Who could resist this? I'd been with women who threw themselves at me and felt nothing. But this woman was impossibly, devastatingly captivating. And then it hit me. This wasn't just some woman. This was my wife. Without another word, I leaned down and kissed her. I felt her body go rigid for a second, then melt against me. I hooked one arm around her waist and lifted her up, while my other hand found the edge of her towel. It fell away. My breath hitched. I laid her down on the bed and came down on top of her. My kisses were hungry, desperate. Her body trembled, and a blush spread across her cool, elegant features. The room grew hot, thick with a heady, unspoken desire. She whimpered for me to stop, but I wouldn't listen. I made her cry out my name, over and over again. An overwhelming wave of love and triumph washed over me. When it was over, something cool slid onto my wrist. I looked down and saw her sandalwood beads. Isabel's eyes were glassy, her lips swollen. She looked at the beads on my wrist like they were a sacred object, then leaned down and gently kissed my skin. As I drifted off to sleep, I heard her whisper, her voice full of the same piety I'd heard in the video. "May my love, Caleb, be safe and happy." The next morning, Isabel was gone when I woke up. I picked up my phone to check my work emails, but the screen was open to my social media. At 3 in the morning, I had apparently made a post. I clicked on it. It was 2 pictures. The first was our marriage certificate. The second was a close-up of my wrist, adorned with her sandalwood beads, with faint red marks still visible on the skin. It was scandalously suggestive. The comments section had exploded. "Did I get hacked? Is this really Caleb's account? Seeing you married hurts more than the thought of me being single forever. Holy shit, it's real. Ashley Price must be losing her mind. Congratulations. Wishing you a lifetime of happiness. When's the wedding? My gift will be 20 million. Please, that's an insult. This is Caleb Morgan's wedding. It's a once-in-a-lifetime event. My gift starts at 80 million. I scrolled through the comments as I walked downstairs, a smile on my face. Then I heard shouting at the front door. I walked over to see Ashley confronting Isabel. She was screaming, spewing every profane insult she could think of. My good mood evaporated. When Ashley saw me, she stopped yelling and tried to get past Isabel. Isabel blocked her path. Caleb, you're lying to me. I don't believe you. Her voice trailed off as her eyes landed on the fresh marks on my neck. Her face went pale. You slept together. How could you, Caleb? How could you become so cheap? Isabel's eyes narrowed. Watch your mouth. I crossed my arms, amused. Isabel Vance is my lawfully wedded wife. What we do in our own home is none of your business. Ashley glared at Isabel, her face contorted with hatred. This is all your fault. You stole him from me. I was the one who was always by his side. You're just a thief who showed up out of nowhere. Why do you get to have him? I'm the one who's loved him for all these years. My expression turned to stone. Ashley, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. I'm not a prize to be won. And don't you dare pretend to be so devoted. I actually considered being with you before I came back. But you were the one who couldn't control yourself. You were the one who got involved with the one person on this planet I despise. The moment I walked into that party, I said, each word a hammer blow. You were out of the game. She swayed on her feet, tears finally spilling down her cheeks. She looked like a lost puppy. You really thought about being with me? She whispered, her voice cracking. Before I could answer, Isabel moved. She waved a hand, and 2 bodyguards appeared, grabbing Ashley and escorting her out. Isabel slammed the door shut. She turned to me, her face like a thundercloud. You really thought about being with her? A sudden, horrifying thought occurred to me. Did we use protection last night? Isabel's expression went blank for a second. She shook her head. You haven't answered my question. Seeing that a distraction wasn't going to work, I tried to explain weakly. That was all in the past. Her face got even darker. Oh crap, how do you appease an angry wife? An idea struck me. I swept her up into my arms. What are you doing? Put me down. When I tossed her onto our bed and started taking off my clothes, she finally realized my plan and scrambled to get away. A second later, my hand closed around her ankle. She kept asking me the same question over and over. In response, I only worked harder until her questions dissolved into breathless moans. The sandalwood beads on my wrist clinked softly with our movements. Again, my love, I whispered. She gasped and called me a beast. Seeing that she had finally forgotten her grievance, I breathed a sigh of relief. I pulled her into my arms, triumphant, and prepared to drift back to sleep. That is, until I heard her voice, sharp and incredulous, slice through the quiet. Kayla Morgan, did you just call me Saint Isabel? My eyes flew open. Crap, how many rounds would it take to make her forget this?